Hello, everyone. Welcome to Loro and Friends Inside the NFL with Loro and Ben. As you all, this show has been discussed about New England Patriots news and also news and notes around the NFL. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about some of the offseason needs for all four of the AFC East teams, including our New England Patriots, along with what the Miami Dolphins need, what the Buffalo Bills need, and what the New York Jets need, as these four teams are headed into a really good offseason. And three of these teams and the two of these teams and the Dolphins and the Jets have the most cap space over the Patriots and the Bills. And I think that we'll talk about this, Ben, is that both of these two teams are primed to spend a lot of money and try to make this a competitive division heading into next year. Ben, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing good, Loro. How are you doing?
Doing great. So anyways, thoughts on the Super Bowl overall, and talk about Matthew Stafford getting a ring here, and also talk about the Bengals having a bright future, but the Rams were just a powerhouse.
Yeah, I thought the Super Bowl was pretty decent. I think obviously early on in the game and at the end of the game are kind of the most impacting parts of the game. Kind of early in the middle part of the game, and I would say even the third quarter, a lot of punts, good defense from the Bengals, which a little bit surprised me. The run defense for the Bengals was great. The running game for the Rams really didn't do a whole lot. Just also like to just congratulate the Rams too on their Super Bowl and being the Super Bowl champs of the season. Totally deserved it. Obviously, a lot of times in this league, super teams don't necessarily work, but they were able to go get Matthew Stafford via trade for Jared Goff. A lot of people thought Matt Stafford, stat pad Stafford, couldn't win the big games, going to a new team, didn't know the system, but here we are, and obviously you could have that grudge talk in terms of will he be a Hall of Famer one day, but I just think personally he did what he could. He came clutch. In the fourth quarter, he's been very clutch in his career, and coming up big in big time moments for a lot of his playoffs, and it came to show again in this game as well too with Cooper Kupp, who arguably had a very good season for a receiver, maybe one of the best receiving performances as a season in all time. I would say all time, but it was pretty up there in terms of how magnificent this guy was. This guy was also in the MVP conversation with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, so obviously he was doing something pretty well. So yeah, it was a good season for them. Aaron Donald, arguably happy for him, finally got his ring. He is the best defensive player right now in this league, without a doubt. I don't think there's any dispute about that. And the only thing he really was missing was that ring. And obviously, him essentially holding up the finger after he had the big moment play at the end of the game where essentially iced it. And he was going nuts. He was having tears in his eyes after the game was over. Just really was proud for him. And another former Patriot friend, too, Sony Michel, who beat the Rams for a Super Bowl and then obviously won a Super Bowl with the Rams. So good for Sony Michel and just a bunch of other guys. Another thing, too, is Robert Woods was really out for a lot of this season, and obviously happy for Robert Woods to get a ring. And then Odell Beckham. A lot of people said, oh, Odell Beckham, cancer, couldn't perform anymore, not the same guy. He was washed. And he was absolutely amazing. And obviously it was unfortunate to see Odell get hurt, because he looked like he was going to be primed to have a huge Super Bowl. In this game, he had already had a touchdown, the first touchdown of the Super Bowl, but he obviously went down with that injury in the early game. In terms of the Bengals themselves, good for them. Great season. Don't hang, obviously hang your heads up high. A lot of people didn't know what to expect. They just got a 4-win season, and they went through to get to this point. The Kansas City Chiefs down 21-3 in Arrowhead. I think everybody thought that they were done, backs against the wall, and Joe Burrow and company kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and beating the Chiefs twice, one in the regular season, one in the AFC title game. That's obviously at the top of the top, and so the Bengals obviously have a lot going for them. I think they just need to worry about their offensive line, which obviously got very exposed with the fact that their offensive line struggled so mightily and even made it to the Super Bowl and was within a drive to, but not only potentially tie the game, but maybe even won the game for the Super Bowl just came to show how close and just how good of a season that they had. And obviously, they did extend their head coach Zach Taylor yesterday on a 4-year extension. So obviously, that they have a lot of confidence in their coach. Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase had one of the best insane rookie seasons probably out there in a long time. He's an absolute stud. They also have T. Higgins, who was great. A lot of the season, he had 2 touchdowns. Tyler Boyd was doing great. C.J. Uzomah at tight end. Joe Mixon, like I said. So the Bengals, I think, had a great season too.
Bengals did have a great season.
It just came to when the time mattered and the big moments mattered. Obviously, the big time players shine, and that's where Aaron Donald made his money, made his absolute presence known. And like I said, congrats to the Rams on a great season. Obviously, they felt, Cooper Kupp was even saying at the parade yesterday, that they felt that the agony and defeat against the Patriots a couple years ago, and obviously themselves turning able to turn themselves around next couple years later and win the Super Bowl. And obviously, Sean McVay. Got a little props to him in terms of what he was able to do, and good for that Rams team. They deserved it, and already looking forward to next season.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Bengals, the Patriots actually play the Bengals next season. I'm hoping that we play them in week 7. I mean, I can't wait to see Mac Jones and Joe Burrow go head-to-head. I think that's going to be a fantastic matchup, but we'll have to talk about what the full schedule looks like when that gets upon us. But let's kind of start with the New England Patriots, and their offseason outlook is they have the 21st pick in the 2021 22 NFL draft. But let's start talking about the coaching staff that needs to be addressed, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They brought back Joe Judge to be the offensive assistant, but there has been some rumblings about potentially bringing back Bill O'Brien or Adam Gase as the team's offensive coordinator. But Adam Gase, to me, is not really my first choice to be the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. I prefer Bill O'Brien, but do I think he's going to leave Alabama for this? I would think so. Just because I think that Nick Saban and Bill Belichick have a great relationship, and I think that if in fact O'Brien leaves for the NFL, I think Alabama can promote within and promote Holloman Wiggins, their wide receivers coach, to be their offensive coordinator. And I think bringing Bill O'Brien back is something that I think should happen. But at the same time, would I be open to Joe Judge being the offensive coordinator? The only thing I would do, Ben, is that before you get your thoughts on this, is that if Joe Judge is the offensive coordinator, I would like to bring back Jerry Shaplinski back as the quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator, and make Billy Yates the run game coordinator, and also have his responsibilities be coaching the offensive line.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot to this right now. The coaching staff just seems to be the biggest situation right now with this team. Before the free agency window opens in about 3-4 weeks maybe from now. But yeah, I think Bill O'Brien's probably my favorite for the OC. But I heard something from Doug Hyde today, who was very good with the Patriots stuff, keyed in on. He was a Patriots reporter at a time. Now he's with Pro Football Focus, I think. He's with one of those networks out there. And he said that he's heard something from potentially an NFL exec that the Patriots might have Matt Patricia tie in with more of the offense with Bill Belichick. And also, Loro has Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo being defensive coordinators. I'm not saying combined defensive coordinators. I think Gerard Mayo would be a great defensive coordinator. That's one thing about the Patriots, though, that I've really had a hard time with for a while, is they need to find a true defensive coordinator for their job. And that's why I would love to have Brian Flores there. I would absolutely love if there was a way to find Brian Flores back here to New England, obviously with this allegation or whatever situation he's going through right now, can get, fixed and they move on from. But I would love to see Brian Flores back here, but I think personally my ideal head coaching situation is to have Joe Judge as the offensive assistant, have Bill O'Brien as your offensive coordinator, have Gerard Mayo as your defensive coordinator, and then obviously go from there. I think special teams, you can find a new special teams coach possibly, because I think Cam McCord has been there for a while, but I think his time is done. The special teams had a little bit of a rough time this past season, but I don't know. I really would love to kind of see just a really set stone plan, because I'm still really concerned about this. If you have Matt Patricia leading your calls between
No.
that or Adam Gase, no, I would not like that. And I just find it very concerning, because people have been ripping on Daniels for leaving and stuff like that, but I don't want to go backwards. And I just feel like we're just kind of still stuck in terms of a what if policy, and it's just like we should have something by now, right? Because you've seen a bunch of other
Yeah, we
teams.
should have something. We should have
Yeah,
something there. Like I want to say, like even though you want Rob Mayo as defensive coordinator, why not Steve Belichick?
I mean, I would be fine with Steve Belichick, but I don't know. I prefer. I
Because
think the
Bill would
players.
want his son. Bill would want to promote his son to that role.
I prefer to have Jerron Mayo, honestly, kind of leading the defense, and then having Steve Belichick kind of overlook the defense, kind of as an assistant, kind of like what Joe Judge would do for offense, but defense. Because I think that way, I remember last season, Bill Belichick. The reason why the defense really kind of got themselves into gear was Belichick essentially just focused all defense, and then I think that players kind of towards the end near the bye week, Matt Judon was getting asked on Radio Row during the Super Bowl week, and essentially a lot of guys from Boston radio were saying what happened the last couple of weeks, and I think Judon was essentially saying players were not working together, and I think that coming from a guy that arguably had a very
I'll
tough
be right back.
second half stretch, yeah, there was obviously something there with this Patriots team that kind of fell apart. So while Loro is off doing something, I'll take the charge for a little bit. Uh, for those that are joining, feel free to leave comments, questions, anything like that. We're just talking about the Patriots, their latest things for their coaching situation, and obviously we'll talk more about coming up the different things for each thing, each positions. Holes for the AFC East. I'm not sure if we're going to talk anything down the road for that. But in the AFC East, obviously the Patriots, which is me and Loro's team, they, of course, have to really focus on a couple things. You obviously have your quarterback set in stone and Mac Jones, but you obviously kind of have to focus on your speed. You got to see offensively, wide receiver is key. You got to really add there as Loro has come back. Loro, thank you. I just essentially was talking about essentially going from the coaching staff situation for the Patriots and transitioning over to the Patriots as a whole and their offense as we essentially kind of transition to the AFC East and what each team kind of has to focus on in order to improve for next season. And I was saying that the Patriots should definitely focus on two positions primarily: the receiving core. At wide receiver, they got to get a true number one for Mac Jones, and at defense, they got to get faster. And essentially, what Jerron Mayo was saying, which primarily is the reason why I want Jerron Mayo to be here as defensive coordinator, is because they got to get faster. And that's what he said. And I think that's a lot to say, because this Patriots defense for a long period of time, right, has had a great quarterback. And nothing to take away from Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to be a good quarterback here. But when you have to rely on a defense for a lot of your playing style for many years, you got to get faster on the edges. And you saw towards the end of the season against the more elite competition is the Patriots defense started to get exposed. If you do not have the pass rush there, in which they really struggled with for a while, the last couple weeks before the season was ending, you had to rely on your back end to essentially take over the charge, and they just weren't getting it done. A lot of open gaps, the linebacking core. I think Dante Hightower's had a great career here in New England. He's had a great career.
Well, Ben,
You saw that his time's up.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we move on to this topic here, I want to point out that when it comes to the coaching staff, I'm thinking my gut tells me that Ivan Veers is going to be retiring. I will miss him greatly. We talked about that moment that he shared with Damian Harris on NFL on the Inside of the NFL when he was telling him that you're going to have a great career and you keep that attitude, you're going to have a great career. I think it tells me that his time as the running backs coach for the Patriots is done, and I am forever thankful for what he has done for the New England Patriots, and he's done a really good job with our running back core, and I think that he has put and I think that he will be missed greatly when it comes to our coaching staff. I think he and Dante Scarnecchia were like one of the two important pieces on our Super Bowl winning coaching staff. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to predict this name who I think is going to replace Ivan Fears as the team's running backs coach. I think Vinny Sons, I can't say his last name though. Can you help me with that?
Vinny who?
Vinny Sunricey.
I don't know. I can't pronounce it. I don't know.
He probably will be. He probably will be moving up, probably following Josh McDaniels with the Raiders. I predict Kevin Falk will be back with the Patriots as the running backs coach.
Oh, that would be cool. I would love to have him. And I think you're starting to see a lot of former Patriot, just really good legend players start to kind of think about doing coaching, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is, because we have Troy Brown, we have Gerard Mayo. So this is something we're going to have to follow in the near future. But now moving on to what you're saying about what the Patriots need as a roster. One of the needs that I think we need to do to address this offseason is a corner, regardless if J.C. Jackson stays or not. I would like a number 2 corner next to him, just so that you don't start Jalen Mills as the number 2 corner. I want somebody that's tall, that's lengthy, that could cover one of your number 2 receiver. J.C. Jackson can cover the number 1 receiver, and then also we'll talk about the safety position in a minute here. We know how good Mac Jones is going to be, and I expect him to have a really good sophomore season.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love to bring the old band back together. Stephon Gilmore's a free agent. Malcolm Butler, apparently today, there's a report out that he might want to unretire and come out of retirement. And, I mean, heck, I don't know how much Malcolm Butler would have, but even as a depth piece for this team, I think, he knows the system, and I think that he would really flourish coming back to a team that he knows well. So Stephon Gilmore, I think is more unlikely. I think that he'll probably stick around in Carolina. They're a young team. I think he likes being down there. So I think he'll probably stick around, but never say never. I mean, I think that Stephon Gilmore is going to be a free agent, but he's probably going to get, a 2-year type of deal. But I think primarily that they want to focus on paying the back to JC, and then probably looking more at receiving core via the draft, which I think they should go draft and free agency for receiver. I think that, essentially paying the price 2 for 1, kind of like a tight end, what they really focused on last year for the free agent core. I didn't expect them to get 2 of the top free agents and the free agent class, which I thought one of them and Jonnu Smith was more disappointing than Hunter Henry, but we'll say that story for another day. I think Jonnu could definitely flourish in year 2. But I do think that, for example, if the Patriots drafted, I know I'm getting myself a little too ahead of myself right now, but if Patriots drafted a receiver at 21, John Mechie, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson from Penn State, and
you forgot Traylon Burks, who we're going to talk about here,
too.
And then
him too. Then go ahead, man.
On my Patriots draft radar 21, Traylon Burks is on there. I want John Mechie, but I think with his injury, I think I would get him in the 3rd round just because he's likely going to drop in the later rounds. So I have Traylon Burks as a good number 1 receiver option here. Nakobe Dean, linebacker, if we want to go that route, because Kirby Smart and Nick Saban both think alike and both run programs very similarly. Him and Trayvon Walker would be good for the Patriots, but a guy that I did some homework on and watched filmed on is Kyler Gordon, the defensive back from Washington that Todd McShay had going at 21, and I think Kyler Gordon would be a good number 2 corner or number 1 corner if J.C. Jackson stays or goes.
Yeah, I did hear about Kyle Gordon. I had no idea who he was, so I do appreciate that you looked at him. Another guy I would love the Patriots to look at is Jordan Davis from Georgia. I think that you beef up that core with him. You keep Lawrence Guy there, and you have Christian Barmore. I mean, you have a three-headed monster at
Are
your
you talking about
front.
Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle from Georgia?
Yeah, I would love him because I think him and Christian Barmore would absolutely just feast together. And I think that the Patriots have had a hard time stopping the run, like in the middle for many years. I think between Davis and Barmore, and then you have Lawrence Guy, who is very good at stopping the run. I think really that you start to kind of shape up your roster for years, at least in the defensive front. I think that really you can kind of get your secondary. Duggar's going to be there for many years. Um, Adrian Phillips already inked an extension, so he's going to be there for several years. So you essentially have your safeties all set, and then your cornerback, you just don't know about corner. JC obviously is the main guy. But if you keep JC around for a couple more years, then outside of McCourty, Devin McCourty is obviously getting up there. I think I could see Devin McCourty coming back for one more year. So you have Devin McCourty, you have Adrian Phillips, you have Kyle Duggar. You essentially have three guys that are returning. You also too have Jalen Mills, who, by the way, I gave him a lot of crap for a couple of times this season, but he did start to really make strides kind of the second half of the year. And obviously he's a big loss in that elimination game to Buffalo. Good, decent cover guy. But also, too, Loro, we're going to get a good reinforcement back at slot corner, Jonathan Jones. I think that Jonathan Jones essentially is a huge part in terms of guys like an Isaiah McKenzie, right? Who obviously Miles Bryant, who, by the way, I'm not going to bash on Miles Bryant. I think that Miles Bryant has good skills. He's not great. He is not great by any means. But you look at him and Juwan Williams, kind of similar in a way that they are very raw. They're very raw in coverage. But I do think the Patriots' defensive back core, outside of JC and a couple other guys, I think a lot of it's already set.
Oh yeah, it is set. I would move Lawrence Guy to defensive end if we draft Jordan Davis, just because I want to get much bigger, much faster, much physical at 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 that side of the ball. But to me, I view Lawrence Guy as a defensive tackle. But you said Jordan Davis might be a guy that could play defensive end.
Yeah, you know what? This is a hot take, a very hot take. I would love, and no, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening whatsoever. But I think it could come cheap. I don't think you'd have to overpay for him. I think the Patriots, because I think Belichick's really liked him, and he's definitely admired him for many years in Denver, and he just won a Super Bowl.
Von Miller.
I think the Patriots could try to find a way to go after Von Miller. Now, Von Miller obviously has had injury problems in the past. This Patriots team obviously is more rebuilding more to contending. I think that Von Miller obviously wants to stay more contending. So this is why I'm probably saying this is a far-fetched idea. But if you get Von Miller on the outside, say for instance, you got Von Miller on the outside, you obviously have Uche, you still have Winovich there. Then you have Jordan Davis, you drafted Barmore and Guy. I mean, Loro and Judon.
Oh man!
I mean, you talk about just an absolute your front seven is just gonna go at it. I mean,
Oh my god!
if you had Jerron Mayo at defensive corner, I'm already picturing this in my mind right now. You have Miller.
The Patriots could challenge the Buffalo Bills for this.
You have Miller. You have Judon. You have. I mean, you even drafted Kobe Dean. You take Hightower out of there, and you have Jordan. I mean, I think you'd either have to go Davis or to Kobe Dean. But look at it. I mean, just look how much. I mean, youth obviously now at this time of era for a football team, it plays a factor. It just plays a factor, and I think that I don't know if McCourty will stick around, and I don't know if Hightower will stick around. But you can still make strides despite some big franchising altering move changes. Because let's be real, Dante Hightower and Devin McCourty have been two of the main defensive cornerstones for this team. But over time, when you start to get, break down and obviously get younger and stuff like that with other guys, it's time for obviously change, and I think that's where the Patriots are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if McCourty and Hightower move on, I mean, it's time to get younger defensively, which I wouldn't mind. I mean, start a new era around Mac Jones because I think this is his era now, like you said. But I'm going to talk about the running back position here. I mean, James White's a free agent. Would I want him? Would I welcome him back? I would. I mean, I think that you need a veteran present, a veteran weapon to kind of still help Mac Jones out with his development. And James White worked well with Tom Brady, and I think he could work well with Mac Jones. But if you look at this running back position here, I think that Ramondre Stevenson's going to be getting more touches. I think he and Damian Harris will get a good amount of touches. Yep. But I think both Stevenson and Harris are both going to have great seasons next year. I'm not worried about that, but I think Ramondre Stevenson is gonna get better in year 2. I have a really good feeling about him heading into year 2.
Oh yeah, I mean, the running back core should be good, and also 2 guys lower at defensive end, which I think would be great, absolutely great. What do you think about this though? A reunion with Chandler Jones?
I saw that. Chandler Jones coming back to the Patriots. I would love it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Chandler Jones right now. He is 31, but he had 10.5 sacks this past season. This guy still has it. And also, Harold Landry from Tennessee. He's a free agent, and he also has that BC connection. So I wouldn't be ruling that out either. So obviously, between Von Miller and Chandler Jones or Harold Landry. Landry had 12 sacks this past year. You put a guy like that on the outside, and you obviously have Van Noy there. Man, I'll be ready to roll. I'll be ready to rock and roll for next couple of weeks to get this defense going because
I think that
obviously could get going for sure.
I think that's an area of need for the Patriots. This free agency, I want them to bolster up their defense, get some fast guys like you said, which I agree with. But if you talk about the running back position here, you think Ramondre Stevenson's going to have an impact in year 2 like he did in year 1?
I do, yeah. I mean, Stevenson, I think he's a young guy, right? And I think Belichick definitely doesn't really play young guys their first year a whole lot, but he played a lot. Now, I think James White's going to be a free agent. You obviously have to take into account in terms of what White will do. He possibly could stick around for another year. Wouldn't surprise me. He can go to somewhere else. I mean, now with Brady retired, I was thinking maybe that he could go to Tampa, but I don't see it happening anymore.
Probably staying in New England now.
I can only really see because, I mean, the year before when he was a free agent and then he came back, I think that Tampa Bay really was his only suitor. I think Brady really kind of wanted James back with him because he's his guy. But I didn't see really any other team out there. I mean, there probably would be some teams out there for him to pursue, but I think James will come back another year. So you have him, you have Brennan Bolden, and who obviously played quite a bit this past year at starting running back. You have Harris, Stevenson, White, and Bolden. I mean, you're set.
You're and really J.J. Taylor, but he's probably more of a practice squad guy.
Yeah, Taylor. Taylor's a fun guy for me. He's but he's just very small. He's shifty, but I think he's more, for number 4 backup, running back. He's a very good piece, on your bench. So,
and then talk about the quarterback position, Mac Jones. We were very pleased with his rookie season, and I can't wait to see what he could do in year 2. I think year 2 he's going to be even better in year 2. Jarrett Stidham is right now the backup quarterback here. And I would want Brian Hoyer back just because he was a really good veteran mentor to Mac Jones. He knows the offensive system, a good backup quarterback. And I do think that the Patriots should bring him back next season.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones is the future. Patriot fans should be very excited for him. I think that we know now after a year, unfortunately, of not so great Cameron Newton, which I was pulling for a lot of the season, but he obviously was all done, and he's obviously his career is all shot. Well, he had a great career, but obviously everything is shot with him now at this point. I don't even know if any team would take him really as a backup. So I mean, if no team will take him as a backup, then essentially maybe in arena football he can play some work, but I'm not sure where. But with that being said, Mac Jones, Jared Stidham, Brian Hoyer. I think Hoyer's a good mentor. He's been a good mentor for many years in New England with Tom. And I think for a young guy like Mac, I think Mac really likes it there, especially with no Josh McDaniels. I think that, Brian Hoyer is kind of a player coach who obviously knows everything going on there. And I think he really loves it in New England too. So plays really well in his hands. Mac Jones had over 3,000 yards this year passing. And he had 22 touchdowns as a rookie. He had 22 touchdowns.
He had a rookie wall later during the
yeah, that was
season,
bound to happen.
it was bound to happen. But I do think that I do think that year two he's going to be even better, and I can't wait to see him make that progression in year two. And he's the future of the New England Patriots, and we found our guy post Brady era.
Yeah, and I think that once he gets a true number one at receiver, I mean, I
We'll
think
have to
that
talk about that in a little bit.
yeah, I think that you also have to just see if you can get his arm going. Build his arm strength. You get that going, and you get just another year under your belt. I mean, they say sophomore slump. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe does Mac take a little step down? Maybe, but I think that he will know the system. He'll grasp the system at least another year. And the more offense you'll have, and the more offseason that you'll have, you definitely should be able to get better. So
Yeah, I
you
think
should
he's going to.
should be really in good hands.
Yeah, the quarterback position's in really good hands for the Patriots since the release of Cam Newton. But talk about wide receivers here. N'Keal Harry still on the roster with Kendrick Bourne, who had a nice first season with us. Nelson Aguilar has had his ups and downs, was not involved enough down the stretch. But I feel like that the Patriots should move on from N'Keal Harry. I think they got to trade him or cut him just because he didn't turn out the way we expected it to happen. I want a number one receiver to go with Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, either via the draft and all that. But I also think that the Patriots should bring back Jacoby Myers and Gunnar Olszewski.
Yeah, Myers and Olszewski, I think, are locks. I personally think Harry is going to be trade bait, cut candidate for sure. I think your true number one, Loro, is going to be via draft and free agency. I think you have a 1A and a 1B. I'm not going to take anything away from Myers. I think Myers is a good piece, but he's not a true number one. He's just not. He's just not.
Myers is more of a third down receiver, more of a guy
possession
that can good with possession.
Exactly. He's a possession guy. He's not a guy that is going to essentially tell a defense, "Oh, we're going to literally focus on you, and we're going to make you try to beat you going downfield and just essentially taking over a game." Can Myers do it against the Jets and the Jaguars and take over games? Sure. But when the big moments happen, when Mac Jones definitely needs a guy going to essentially against a good team like a Colts or a Bengals, a Bills, you definitely need to get that number one on the outside. You definitely need to get that true number one. I think John Mechie or Jamison Williams or Jahan Dotson, I don't think they'll be a 1A, but I do think, I'm not saying an Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson, the Patriots have a chance to get. And I think Allen Robinson, he had a down year this past year, but I think that he's that big guy that I've really kind of liked. And I think for the Patriots, Allen Robinson, he still has it in him. I think that to really essentially elevate his game. I don't really know how much he's done in the last couple of years, but he's a 6'3". He's 28 years old. And, in his career, he's had 6,049 yards. He's had 40 touchdowns in 7 years. He just needs a new system. I think that he would be doing so well in New England if we got him.
And I would love to get Allen Robinson. But what about Nelson Aguilar? I mean, I think Aguilar is kind of like 50-50. He had a good first half of the season, but in the second half of the season, he kind of had a down second half, though. But I am still optimistic about him. But he's not a number one receiver, though.
No, Nelson Aguilar is unfortunately, Laura, his weakness and his strength, I know it for sure. His strength is to stretch the field downfield, but he's essentially not going to take over a game, right? He's essentially a true number three. He's a number three at best. And he had a good year this past year, but really he was really only their best receiver. I mean, outside of Hunter Renfrow, which Hunter Renfrow is a great receiver.
And I
But
said something about Kendrick Bourne having a nice first year in year one, and I really like Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne has been I think he has a good chemistry, good rapport with Mac Jones in his first year at the Patriots, and I think that having Kendrick Bourne here, I think Kendrick Bourne's going to have a really good second year with the team.
Listen, I look at it this way, right? I think that Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne are like your 2A, 2B. So you have at least your top four, Bourne and Myers. Aguilar, I think, is going to be right in the cusp of kind of your last half of your receiving roster because I don't see the Patriots moving on from him after this. At least they'll give him one more season. Kind of like Jonnu Smith.
Are you talking about Bourne, though?
Bourne will stick around. I think they really like Bourne because he's very versatile. They can use him in different ways. I think your 1A and 1B is your 1A is going to be via draft in the first round, and your 1B is going to be coming free agency. So let me look at this. Let me just kind of picture something here. Your 1A is free agency. You get Allen Robinson, or you can get Michael Gallup from the Cowboys. Look at it this way. You get either two of them, and then you add John Mechie, or you add Jamison Williams. You add one of those Alabama guys, Chris Olave from Ohio State. You had two of those guys, right? And you have Kendrick Bourne and you have Jacoby Myers. Those are your four receivers. I think that is a huge drastic from what you had this past year. I really do. And that means that Nelson Aguilar will get more open looks. Maybe that he could be more of your sleeper pick X factor if he opens up, if he gives you more opportunities with other guys essentially defense have to take away their game. If a defense looks on the outside and says, oh, Allen Robinson's out there, oh man, we got to really double team him. Then you see what the other open guys that you have. And plus two, if James White is your third down back, he's a threat in the backfield as well too. That obviously adds a mismatch to a guy and James White in the backfield. And then two, remember this, if Jonnu Smith can actually know the offense and gets himself going, look at Jonnu Smith a couple years ago, what he was able to do with the Titans.
Jonnu Smith was a bit disappointing here in his first year. This is such a hard offense as I get. But I think Devin Asiasi, I think Dalton Keene's kind of like the odd man out for the Patriots at tight end. I think Hunter Henry had a great first year. I think he's a good, reliable deep threat at tight end for Mac Jones. And he was on my hometown LA Chargers for his first 5 years of his career. Selfishly wanted him to stay there, but I was glad that my guys got him and that he's on my team. And
I mean, I'm looking at Jonnu's stats from there now. So 2017 and 2020, right? He only had 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and then he had 8 touchdowns. So essentially, it seems like Jonnu seems like he's a guy that it'll take a little while. And I think if you're the Patriots, though, you already have Hunter Henry, who was huge this past year. He's for sure your number one tight end. If you get any productivity from Jonnu Smith, anything, to a degree of that, then you really have something cooking for Mac Jones, right? You have a number one receiver, and like Allen Robinson or like a Michael Gallup. You have a number one draft pick that you just found a home run on that could stretch a defense. You could put him in the slot, you could put him in the outside like a Chris Olave type. Then you have Kendrick Bourne, who really was a good X factor. I think he had like 5, 6 touchdowns, especially you could use him in different ways. And Jacoby Myers, you have your possession guy. Those are 4 guys right there, Loro. That's obviously a lot more in terms of, now we have Jacoby Myers as our number one receiver. Oh, he's a respectable guy. Now defense are going to be like, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we want here. I mean, I talked about Hunter Henry being a good red zone target. He was great for us all year long in his first year. I mean, I was telling you that I saw him on my hometown LA Chargers, but I'm glad that he's on my team now because Hunter Henry's a game changer. He had a great first year. Jonnu Smith, like you said, disappointing, but I'm still optimistic that he can be an integral part of the Patriots offense.
Yeah, another guy too, a receiver. Two guys. If the Patriots decide to go free agency at receiver, two guys like they did last year, I think you get a number one, like you get Allen Robinson, or you get Michael Gallup. Your number two, look at Braxton Berrios. A reunion with Braxton Berrios from the
Oh,
Jets.
that would be good. But before you go on with that,
I read some a lot of things about him.
I think that Braxton Berrios is going to want to stay with the Jets, which we'll have to talk about, dive deep into that in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think Braxton Berrios would be a fun piece for this team. He had 431 yards. He only had 2 touchdowns, but you also have to take into account that he was really good in the special teams in the return game. And I think the Patriots really had a hard time with that. Another guy too, Loro, who would be a great fit is Christian Kirk from
Oh,
Arizona.
Kirk would be great.
I think Christian Kirk would be great in this offense too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But if you talk about the offensive line, Trent Brown's a free agent. I surely hope he's back. But if he's not back, I would be open to starting Michael Enu at right tackle.
I would too. I really like Owino a lot. I think that was a little unfair the way that they kind of, went different ways with him. But I think Brown will stay. I think that he really loves New England. I don't think that he really likes to be anywhere else besides here. So I think that he'll stick around.
Oh yeah, I mean you have him at Trent Brown at right tackle, Michael Enu at right guard, at center the captain David Andrews. I mean he's still going strong. He's had a great year. He's been really the heart and soul of that group. Isaiah Wynn. I like him. Do I think he's a good blind side protector for Mac Jones? Yeah, I could see that. And Shaq Mason's also a captain of this offensive line. Do I see this offensive line getting younger? At some parts, yes, but I do want to get some guys back. I kind of want to run it back with some of the guys that we had last year in bringing back Trent Brown.
Two surprising guys I can see the Patriots not seeing next year. J.C. Jackson and Isaiah Wynn. I think those two guys could be out.
Who would? Which one? One guy on the offensive line, you said?
I can see Isaiah Wynn leaving. I can see JC leaving.
And why Isaiah Wynn leaving?
I think it'd be a sign and trade. I could be a trade for a receiver.
And why do you think he should get traded?
I don't think he should get traded, but I do think with his injuries in the past, I do think that the Patriots are essentially kind of looking at this in terms of way that they could use leverage for an upgrade. Essentially, maybe using Trent Brown at left tackle, and you have a why not right tackle, and then you kind of see what your guards
and draft a guard in the draft here.
Yeah,
that's how I can see this offensive line. I think that the Patriots' offensive line is going to be really good.
Yeah, because you remember Trent Brown played left tackle for Brady.
Yeah,
he did,
right tackle.
No, he played right tackle. I take that back. Left tackle. I mean, you also use some guys when a lot of the guys are kind of hurt early on in the year, but they weren't playing that well. You also have some guys in the free agency class that you can go offensive line with. I don't think that they would do that though. I think Trent Brown will stay, but I think that I wouldn't be shocked if they moved on from him.
And then for defensive linemen here, I think is going to make a huge jump in year two. Mac Jones's college teammate Christian Barmore, who I could really see sliding into a starting role next year.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I think Christian Barmore he nearly tore his ACL, but I did see that he really was a guy that really knew the system right away. He was he stopped the run. He was getting to the quarterback. And I do think that, like you said, if they want to go in the route like adding Jordan Davis or something amongst those lines, I wouldn't mind it. Like you said, that is going to make this defense faster if we add Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I'm going to see what the free agent defensive tackles are this year. I haven't really looked, but I love just kind of looking through Spot Rack and seeing what's out there.
So but I'll tell you
Brandon Williams. Let's see. Ndamukong Suh is out there. He's a free agent. I think Tampa Bay will probably keep him though. Linval Joseph. That'd be an interesting name. Sheldon Richardson. Yeah, Corey Peters. That could be an interesting kind of little deal there. I would think more Loro, like I would prefer to go draft. Maybe reunion with Danny Shelton too. That could
Oh
be
my
interesting.
gosh, I love Danny Shelton.
Hmm.
Great run stuffer. And I think
Yep.
that having him back, I would love to have Danny Shelton back. He knows Bill Belichick's system very well. He could form that fearsome foursome with Gotchik and Lawrence Guy and
I forgot about Gottschalk. Yeah.
Barmore. Chase Winovich, I'd want to see get going. I mean, his rookie year was good, but since then it's just been downhill.
Hmm.
What do you want to
Yeah.
see from him next season?
Just give him more playing time. I think that's the biggest thing.
He should get more playing time. He's good.
Yeah. Um. He has to. I mean, this is also a thing about Judon that it kind of exposes and essentially setting the edge. I think the best thing about setting the edge as an outside linebacker is what Kyle Van Noy does great. Is essentially he could read when he wants to read the pass rush, like go after the quarterback, and also when the running back is coming, in terms of staying your lane, staying your gap, and making the play. So I think that's obviously why Chase Winovich, obviously, and Josh Uche are guys that like to go after the quarterback, but I think that Bill also sees it too in a way that you just kind of have to stay back and, you know, be aware too of staying in your lane for sure. So
I also want to point out that I was so happy to have Kyle Van Noy back, and I can't wait to see what he could do in year 2 with Dante Hightower retiring. I kind of want him to see him have the leadership type role. And also, here's the thing: if in fact that Trent Brown leaves, I would want Ted Karras back, though. I wanted to just point that out there. I think Ted Karras could start at right guard so that you could move Onwenu to right tackle if they go that route.
yeah, I mean, we would have to find out though, man. We'll have to see. That'd be interesting.
So, what was your thoughts on Kyle Van Noy coming back and what he brings to this defense?
I think Kyle Van Noy is a great player in this defense for sure. I think that he brings a lot of leadership. He's a good veteran, and I just think that there's a lot going for him for sure.
Yes, and then final predictions: who I think stays, who goes. I'm going to pick one of each. I think defensively, I think J.C. Jackson stays just because I think that I think that J.C. Jackson to me is definitely one of the captains of this. I think that the Patriots should not let him go. And then who I think leaves, I might go with you on this one. Isaiah Wynn and N'Keal Harry. Those are two guys that I think I think are probably gone because with Isaiah Wynn, I like, but I'd rather bring Trent Brown back to play left tackle because I want to move Onwenu to right tackle because I want to make sure I bring Ted Karras back to play right guard.
Yeah, I think Karras and Mason will play guards. So yeah, I think Wynn could be the odd man out. I really do. He's just never consistently healthy.
You're not talking about Onwenu. You're talking about Wynn being
talking about Wynn, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think Wynn's probably the odd man out of that group just because I feel like that Trent Brown's better. I think Onwenu could play right tackle, not only just guard. N'Keal Harry, I think he is probably going to be out the door too because I feel like that I want a better number one receiver than he is.
He's not number one. He's just like he's just there. That's all. He's heavily out there for.
That's what I think's gone too, and I also think I'd keep J.C. Jackson too. Devin McCourty. I think Devin McCourty's going to stay, and also forgot this guy who is really the heart and soul of this locker room for so many years, and I want him back next year too. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Matt Slater, nah, he'll stick around.
Is he ready to retire? That's the question. I don't think he's ready to retire yet.
I'm probably going one more year. I think he's going to go one more ride.
Yeah, I say so. Matt Slater.
Tim McCourty. I think Hightower's all done. I think he'll retire.
Yes, I think Dante Hightower is going to retire. I am really thankful for what he's done for the Patriots these past 12 years since we drafted him, and I think that Dante will be missed. He had a great Patriot run, but from what I saw is that he was slow, not good with how he used to be. But I do think that I think his time with the Patriots is going to come to an end.
Yep, he's all done. Yep, he obviously made some of the most clutchest plays in the playoffs. He was a good teammate, good guy in the locker room. A lot of guys liked him. Defensively, he was a heart and soul for many years, but obviously his body's broken down, and he's all done.
All right, now let's talk about the Buffalo Bills now. Talk about where they stand this offseason. And I'll tell you what, this Buffalo Bills team heading into next season has unfinished business.
Yeah, 13 seconds. 13 seconds. But they're going to be reminded that for many, many times this offseason. But they got a lot of good things going for them. We predicted
Absolutely.
that they would win the division this year. Loro, you were right once again.
But are they?
Quarterback?
But do you think they're going to win the division next year, though?
I do. I think the Buffalo will win the division next year too.
Unfinished business. That's kind of the theme for our Bills topic here is unfinished business.
Josh Allen is top 3, top 4 quarterback now. Many people had no idea how good this guy can make his jump. He's playing at MVP level, and he played essentially one of the most perfect games that we have seen against our Patriots, and they played essentially one of the most perfect games to finish off their season against the Kansas City Chiefs. It came down to a coin flip. This guy was outstanding for a lot of this season, and just his growth from year one to now has just been incredible. Stephon Diggs is going to still be around. Dawson Knox has been a great piece at tight ends. They have, I think Cole Beasley's a free agent, but if they keep him around, he's going to be.
Oh, he's still under contract, but he's probably going to take a pay cut too if you talk about it here. But talk about some of the notable coaching additions that they got. They lost Brian Daboll to be the head coach of the New York Giants. They promoted Ken Dorsey from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator because Josh Allen really loves Ken Dorsey. And a great addition to the coaching staff, who I think is going to be a bit vital to the pass game coordinator, I'd call him. He did a good job working with Joe Burrow, and Joe Brady is now part of the Buffalo Bills coaching staff. And I think that Josh Allen is going to be working with 2 good offensive minds.
Yeah, I think no Daboll. I think Allen was really happy for Daboll too to get a new place, which is good for him. Dorsey, I think they really are good with, and I think Allen had a lot of input on that too. So they're going to be set, man. I mean, this Bills team is going to be coming for really unfinished business, as you mentioned. They are going to be a top 3, top 4 team next year in the AFC. They're going to be AFC's champs, I think, next year. As obviously as past fans say, this new era kind of runs right now through them. Their team right now just happens to be that way, and they've been very good. Which obviously now we can kind of feel their medicine for as long as we kind of handed it to them for years. So I can't really feel as bad. Yeah, Sean McDermott, good coach.
Oh yeah,
good coach in there. So
he is a good coach. There's no reason for us to hate him. I mean, I think Sean McDermott's done a phenomenal job coaching the Buffalo Bills. I mean, 2017, his first year, how did it go? Not so good. He sent them to the playoffs, but they got eliminated. 2018, 6-10. That was his only losing season. 2019, they were starting to trend upward. They were right on Brady's heels in his final season. 2020, passing of the torch. 2021, they have been there were some games that I felt like that the Bills should have won, but I think that this was a good season for them. I think 2022, this is unfinished business for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that really this Bills team is just finishing the job. I think they have everything out of them. Defensively, they could have definitely had some pieces, maybe at linebacker, maybe at the defensive back, but really, you get Tre'Davious White back.
That's a boost to the Bills defense.
Huge. I mean, the Bills were, could have been a couple plays away from even being in a Super Bowl without arguably their best defensive player. That's how good and how close that they are to being Super Bowl, not only contenders, but potential champions for the next couple of years here. Or at least a champ, next 1 to 2 years or 3.
And then with Emmanuel Sanders likely retiring here, I think the Bills have.
Yeah.
I think the Bills have found their number 2 receiver next to Stephon Diggs, and that is Gabriel Davis, who had a great year last year. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to continue to progress.
Yeah, I like that kid a lot, Gabe Davis. I think that He just didn't really need to get his opportunity. I think Emmanuel Sanders was there too, but I think that Sanders, when he kind of was hurt a little bit, they really saw the progression to Gabe Davis, and the kid obviously just really played hard and took his opportunity. And I think that he's really a guy. So yeah, this Bills team is really close, man, and I think that
Very close.
they're the team to be forced within the division. Obviously, now let's go to the Dolphins.
Yeah, and then talk about Devin Singletary. That's good. Also, you forgot guys like you forgot guys like Tremaine Edmonds. Great season, and talk about Jerry Hughes, who I think is, even though he's a free agent, I think Jerry Hughes should stay.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, Jerry Hughes is a good player. We'll have to see. I mean, it'll be really close to see in terms of how things go.
Yeah, and then talk about where they are in the draft. So I have them drafting with the 25th pick in the draft, they get a defensive back from Auburn, and that's Roger McCreary. And with the 21st pick, I have the Patriots getting Kyle Gordon.
Yeah,
Kyler Gordon. So now that you said time to talk about the Miami Dolphins, and from a team that started off 1-7, finished 9-8, I did not get why they fired Brian Flores. But at the same time, I really think that they went with an offensive-minded head coach so that they can help develop Tua Tagovailoa. And you know how much I am a big Tua fan, and I'm a believer in this kid. Even though he's a lefty quarterback, even though that he just has to stay healthy, I do think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to thrive with Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, Miami's a pain. They're a pain in the ass. They beat us twice this past season. They always just seem to do really well against the Patriots in Miami for many years.
Not in New England, but talk about one of the games that I will never forget is the Miami Miracle.
We really have to mention this to me at 12:12 at night, Loro here. Oh man, now I'm gonna really think about it if we're going to bed. Nah. Anyway, yeah, it was obviously just one of those games I can recall. I was getting ready to leave my college room. My friends and I, were getting our stuff ready to leave, and all of a sudden, I just kind of look away from the TV, like, oh, looks like things are gonna go well. They gotta really just go throw it on the field and do a lot of herky jerky stuff. And I turn around, I'm like, wait, my eyes start to get open, and I start getting near this TV. I'm like, no, this can't be real. And then all of a sudden, I was just in utter shock. And like, I don't even want to go eat dinner yet. I had to really take my time and just kind of sit down and say, what in the world just happened?
I was in this room when this happened. I was like, Patriots, when I was watching it with like my lifelong family friends. We were like, Tannehill threw the ball, and that the Dolphins were just going to lateral it and just keep forwarding the football to eat from Devontae Parker and them. But another day for another story. Wow. But I'm kind of telling you how excited I am about Tua Tagovailoa, and that the Dolphins believe in him, expect the Dolphins to build their offense around him. Now that Mike McDaniel's the man in charge, I think Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle are going to thrive in his offense.
The Dolphins are a team that's trending up, man. They, I think they're not afraid really of anyone. The fact that they were 1-7, a lot of people thought they would be packed in, including myself. I was one of those people that pack it in. Loro, you're the one that really said, "Oh, do not pack it in just yet." And I was gonna laugh and think you were crazy, but you're right. You're right after many things, and you said, don't overlook them yet. And then all of a sudden, things started to trend upward. They essentially Tua came back after he was hurt and stuff like that. They really flipped things around, and they were maybe a game or two from even being in the playoffs. Which after it looked like for a long period of time, they looked all but certain not to be even in the playoffs or even have a sniff at it. So Tua, I think, is their guy. Mike McDaniel is a good coach, offensive minded. It's his first time being a head coach, which I think is really going to be really cool. You get Xavier Howard back. I think you add Mike Gesicki back from free agency. He's a good guy at tight end. You got your running back core with Myles Gaskin. Your receiving core with Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker. You have Will Fuller back, who could be good, who they didn't have last year. And then maybe even a guy in the draft. I mean, the Dolphins defensively should be really good this next year too.
Oh yeah.
They're a young team. They got a lot of pieces there. This team obviously can thrive for many years. And as a Patriot fan, they're still definitely a team that's going to give us problems.
Oh, they're going to give us problems. I mean, absolutely. And you said Tua is their guy, and I say that because I watch Alabama football.
Mm-hmm.
I first watched him play in that college football national title game when he threw that touchdown pass to Devontae Smith to beat Georgia, and I was like, this kid could actually be the next Steve Young in the NFL because with his left-handed throw. But I think that Tua Tagovailoa, I think just needs to stay healthy. I know that when he's healthy, he is a dangerous type. He is really, really good when he's healthy. And I know that. But I feel like that the Dolphins, what they're going to do in order to protect Tua is I think they're going to be a run-first type of offense. And I think that what they're going to be doing is more RPOs, more jet sweeps. Talk about Tua using Jalen Waddle in the backfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a lot of guys that are versatile. They have a lot of guys that are quick. They're very big-time game changers. So we got to see. And then obviously, the last team is the Jets.
But yeah, and then I think the Dolphins will keep Mike Gesicki. I don't see him going anywhere. I think that it'll be stupid for the Dolphins to let him go. But I also think the biggest need for the Dolphins this offseason, I think, is a right tackle. I mean, I like Liam Eichenberg. I can move him to right tackle. I would like to draft another left tackle so that you have more stability in the offensive line.
Yeah, they got to add some guys offensive line. They do that. They did give up a lot of sacks past year. So I mean, if they keep their offensive line a little more upright, they obviously can help their quarterback.
And then defensively, I think they need to keep Emmanuel Ogbah.
Good player.
And I like Christian Wilkins. I think Wilkins definitely is going to continue to grow and to get better each and every year. And I also think that, but despite all the ownership, there's the drama with Stephen Ross. I have to say that he is on my list for one of the worst owners in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Steve Ross? And do you think he's going to sell the Dolphins? Did you think he did?
I don't know about.
Did you think he told Flores to tank? He said those allegations against him were false.
I did obviously read more into this for sure.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to monitor as the offseason goes on. And let me throw in a trade before we talk about the Jets here.
Sure.
The Dolphins should trade for Calvin Ridley, and I think and then they should trade Allen Hurns and a second or third round pick for that.
Okay. We'll see.
Because I don't think Calvin Ridley is going to cost that much since he didn't even play all of last season, though.
I think Calvin Ridley should go to Philly, but that's just me.
I want him in Miami. I want him with Tua.
I would love Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith,
and with Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
And then talk about the New York Jets.
Jalen Waddle, and you go Calvin Ridley. So you can go with real Alabamas and either of those teams.
Let's talk about the New York Jets now. So the Jets have 2 first-round picks heading in. One of these picks are from Seattle. And I'll tell you, when it comes to the draft, I forgot to tell you, I have the Miami Dolphins getting Ike Ekwonu from NC State. He could play left tackle. That's the pick from the 49ers. So I forgot to tell you that. And then for the Jets, when it comes to the draft, I have them drafting Derek Stingley Jr. with pick number 4. And then at pick number 10, I don't think Denzel Mims is going to be back. I think they're going to get – I want them to get Garrett Wilson from Ohio State because I think that you need another outside guy to go with Corey Davis, who had a disappointing first year. I think Corey Davis is going to have a really good bounce-back season in year 2. He's just got to stay healthy. I think Corey Davis is a good deep threat when he's healthy. But and then Elijah Moore had a really good rookie season too.
Yeah, he did.
But I'm not saying that Robert Saleh is on the hot seat on the Jets in year 2. I don't think he is. Robert Saleh, I'll tell you guys this. I'm going to be clear. He is the right man for the New York Jets at head coach.
No, he is. I just think that he needs to elevate the talent around.
And talk about the Jets being 4-13. I mean, a lot of people were already bashing Saleh to be gone, and I'm like, he's not going to be one and done. I like the guy. He's a great motivator. Players love to play for him. He's a players type coach that you're gonna want to play for. And Robert Saleh has energy, he's a good leader. He's a really good motivator, and that's what the Jets needed. And his first year was not really all his fault with why the Jets were 4-13.
No, I mean, they're facing Patriots, Dolphins, and Bills. I mean, they have a huge, tough division. So it's like, it's hard for them to obviously compete with them. The talent that they have, the young youth, it's going to take them a while. And that's okay for them. They're a rebuilding team. Their quarterback, I think Zach Wilson's still the guy. I think they got a decent coach in Robert Saleh. They just got to add the pieces. I think the Jets really won a lot of close games this past year, despite their record. They fought. They beat some caliber playoff teams like Tennessee and Cincy. So listen. The Jets, I think, they obviously have a lot of holes. They do. Their defense is a mess. Their offensive line's a mess. But you had some guys in the draft. I think that Calvin Ridley for the Jets would be cool. An interesting story. A deep threat, Garrett Wilson, maybe draft him like you say would be interesting too. Defensively, keep Marcus May around. He's probably your best defensive back player. Quentin Williams, of course, stick around, having him there. And then obviously elevate from your draft class and your linebacking core too. So,
well, if you look at it here, Joe Douglas had to dump a lot of salary and all that because you're not going to win with a mediocre roster because he traded away to Jamal Adams for more draft picks. I thought the Jets I thought Jamal, that was kind of dumb for the Jets to move on from Jamal Adams, but Jamal Adams wanted out because he didn't want to play for Adam Gase.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And if you look at the Jets, I think their biggest need for me is I think they need a DB, and then they need to and I think they're fine. They're fine-wise with the defensive line. And then I think linebacker, C.J. Mosley's just got to stay healthy. And I do think, however, they need an upgrade at right tackle. They need to kind of get some pieces on the offensive line. Because Zach Wilson got chased a lot. He missed a lot. He missed a bit of time because of that knee injury he suffered against the Patriots. But I just feel like that the Jets need to shore up that offensive line to help protect him because Zach Wilson's going to need a lot of time throwing the football.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So that's what I'm thinking here. But talk about Michael Carter, who had a great first year, nice rookie season, and then Ty Johnson, who's kind of like this good third down type of back who they got from the Lions.
Yeah, Michael Carter, good interesting story, good fantasy player. Got a lot of playing time this past year. Obviously Ty Johnson, the other running back too there. The Jets, they had a lot of good things going for them offensively. It was really their defense and a lot of their offensive line that really kind of held it back.
Yeah, and then talk about Corey Davis. Can Corey Davis bounce back in his second year with the Jets, despite not having a good first season with him?
I do, yeah. I think Corey Davis was a good number 2 behind A.J. Brown for many years. I think he could elevate, become a number 2 if they had a guy like Calvin Ridley, a guy in the draft maybe. He could elevate if he can keep himself healthy. I think that's a big part with Corey Davis.
Yeah, and then also talk about guys like Mike White. A lot of people said, "Oh, quarterback controversy. It's the Mike White show." And I'm like, guys, it's not the Mike White show. It's Zach Wilson's team. Period.
Yep.
Because Mike White started.
It was a good fun story for a couple of weeks, and then obviously he obviously kind of fell. We were kind of questioning.
Let's talk about the AFC East game of the year. Talk about one of my favorite games for the Patriots. Brady's return to Foxborough. Talk about that being the game of 2021.
Yeah, that obviously was the big Belichick, Brady. A lot of people were saying that could have been the Super Bowl for all we know. Just the hype around it. Great fun game. Probably one of my top favorite games as a Patriot fan. Just kind of the uniqueness of it. It was a rainy game, so obviously I wish the weather was going to be a little bit better in that one. But yeah, back and forth, close game, low scoring game, and just the memories for Tom is the whole thing. And now with him being retired, I think that retired as of right now, because obviously you never know with the guy. But I think that he will
Look,
stay retired.
Tom Brady is already content with his decision.
But Isaiah's team in the Niners, if he went there, I think Isaiah would obviously throw a party. I'm obviously ready.
It's the Trey Lance era now.
Yeah, so well, I think he's all set. I think Brady's all done and enjoy his retirement in the sunset and obviously be with kids and stuff, which he can do more of.
What about this? Patriots Bills week 13 in the snow. And I would say Damian Harris and then my play of the year is Damian Harris's long touchdown run.
It'd be cool, Loro. And there was a guy, a woman in Boston radio was saying this. What if they retired Brady's number on 12/12? Like they had a home game December 12th, on that day. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, 12-12 day. That would be awesome if that happened. I think that should happen here. And one of my other games of the year in the AFC East, when the Buccaneers and the Bills went down to the wire.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about that was a good overtime win, and also talk about the Bills divisional round game against the Chiefs, which was the game of the year for that,
Definitely.
And then Dolphins Patriots, the Dolphins game of the year, I have to say was their 7-game win streak, which was kind of their moment of the year.
Yeah, that really was a great fun year. This was a really good fun year this past year for the Patriots. They obviously had a lot of good things going for them. They have a good young future ahead, a lot of good pieces. Bill obviously, saying that, Bill can't draft, and he's obviously had many bad drafts, but you had Mac Jones, you had Christian Barmore, two guys really that he really locked in on and had some big time, things going for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then talk about the Jets. I mean, talk about their stunning win against the Titans. That's their game of the year.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the Jets were in a lot of close games, and Titans obviously weren't able to get the job done on that one.
Yeah, they weren't able to get the job done. I mean, I said that Ryan Tannehill's not the guy for them to build their offense around. And I've said that many times. He's a game manager. He can manage a game.
They should get Mariota.
Oh, I love Mariota.
Go back to Tennessee. And Laura, we got to do an NFL carousel edition here at some point coming up.
What is that? NFL carousel, if you can explain that.
NFL QB carousel. So essentially we go through all the names that could be rumored. So let's just have a little NFL preview carousel, right? And I was reading this on the Score app, right? We can go through where we think Aaron Rodgers is going to do, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and obviously kind of get into some key guys.
Oh, man, that's going to be chaos.
And we obviously have to get a bunch of guys on. Maybe for the extra point, we could do a QB carousel edition. And I think that get a lot of people's viewers. I mean, I think that, people obviously can do like our NFL free agents, edition. But the QB carousel, Derek Carr will be out there possibly, even though I think
probably not.
Probably not. But let me just think about this list for a sec, right? That could be on this QB carousel fun edition, as you can say. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. I forgot to say him. Marcus Mariota. Jameis Winston. He'll be out there. So I mean, listen, Laura. I mean, we could have a lot of fun doing that at some point down the road here.
I think we probably will do that on the extra point on Sunday, the QB carousel game. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. We might have different opinions, but anyways, some of my final thoughts on this show. It's been a great show to talk about the whole entire AFC East, and talk about. I'm looking forward to this offseason and the draft as well. And I do think, however, for the Patriots, I think my top priority for them this free agency is to retain J.C. Jackson.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, you keep your best defensive player out there, things will definitely go well. My final thoughts are good show. It's obviously football season's over with. Had a lot of fun talking football with you over the course of this whole regular season, postseason, Super Bowl, and obviously football season doesn't end here on the show and on the extra point. We'll talk more about it there, and obviously we'll get back like we talked about off the air, Loro, our baseball show soon, as there's a lot of heated up talks and the good and the bad. Obviously, find out more will the season start on time. So we'll kind of talk with everybody here in the audience at some point coming up soon of what we can kind of get going back up with that. And then obviously, for those that don't know, Loro does a show every Monday and Wednesday, I believe.
Monday, when Wild Sports Talk.
Wild Sports Talk, yeah, every Monday and Wednesday. For those that are joined, Loro does a show with that. A lot of debated talks. Well, great show. I've been able to go on a couple times and thought I'd do a lot of good stuff there. So obviously the content never stops, and had a lot of fun tonight, and look forward to being on Sunday.
Yeah, and then I just messaged everybody on the extra point team that we're doing the QB carousel game on Sunday.
Perfect. Looking forward to it, and I'll get my thinking cap ready for that.
Yeah, I have mine too. I have some guys staying, but anyways, that's going to do it here for Loro and Friends Inside the NFL. And our next show for that will be sometime before the new league year begins.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, free agency, Super Bowl ends. Free agency is obviously my favorite time of year, and hopefully
And the draft too.
Yeah, at least free agency. Hopefully, we'll have a better idea where baseball is at the point. Hopefully, we'll hear some good news by then. So,
yeah, because they're going to be meeting next week. We want to get our baseball show back and running again so that we can talk about our Dodgers. You talk about your Reds, talk about my Dodgers, talk about your Red Sox, and all that, and talk about how Commissioner Rob Manfred is somewhat of a clown, and I can't wait to bash him when I see him on.
He's not somewhat, Loro. He's just a full-on one. Actually, Marcus Stroman had his best name for him, Robert McClown, instead of Robert Manfred. He had Robert McClown. So I'll remember that because
that's a good move there by Marcus Stroman to say that.
Yeah, but anyways, we'll obviously talk more about it down the road.
Anyways, I'll see you again on Sunday for the extra point, and then next Loro and Friends Patriots edition show will be prior to free agency, when we'll talk about which free agent will the Patriots land.
Sure, can't wait. All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.